How's it going, guys? This is Adam from Slurve, Ship My Money on DraftKings, and I'm going to be breaking down today's pitching slate for you. First, I have a little bit of a brag. On Friday, I qualified for the FanDuel Playboy Championship next month, so I'm really excited about that. And as far as my videos go, I will start being able to touch more on FanDuel strategy as well because I'm going to be playing there more often now, trying to get better on that site before the championship. So for today, I have a couple of pitchers that I really like overall, and then a few pitchers that honestly kind of scare me, but I like their upside in GPPs. So the first pitcher that I just kind of like in general is Johnny Cueto at 10,800 on DraftKings and 10,600 on FanDuel. He is priced higher than I would like, but I trust him more than any of the other top pitching options today. So I don't mind paying the extra price and just locking him in, considering he's been pitching well and he's returning to Cincinnati where he's familiar with the ballpark and everything, and he's facing a Reds team that hasn't been hitting well against righties this year with a 22% strikeout rate, 281 WOBA, and 66 WRC plus. It's just a spot where I don't like paying as much for him as I will be, but just because of lack of other options, I don't mind Cueto. My favorite pitcher on the slate is Jonathan Gray going against the Padres in San Diego. On DraftKings, he's priced pretty fairly at 7,900, and so I don't think he's like a must play there. He's just my personal favorite play, so I will have a lot of him. But on FanDuel, he's priced at 5,500, which is just a mistake. It's just flat out wrong. It's like he is playing at Coors Field, but he's not. He's playing in Petco Park against a really, really, really bad offense. So I just love him today on both sites, but really just on FanDuel. I will just have as much of him as I can. And especially, it's a small sample size, but over the course of his career, which started last season, he's been much better on the road. He's got a 30% strikeout rate on the road. His xFIP on the road is 3.46, 275 WOBA, which, makes sense because he pitches in Coors Field at home, so it makes sense for his numbers to be better on the road. And on top of that, his peripherals at home, just overall, even at home, are actually pretty decent. His ERA is around 6.5, but he has a 3.61 xFIP, 3.72 Scherer, so he just isn't as bad of a pitcher as his numbers indicate anyway. And overall, he's got almost a 23% strikeout rate, and he's facing a Padres team who strikes out between 26 and 27% of the time against righties so far this year. So I just think there's a ton of upside, and he's a pretty safe option too because, yeah, he is young and he tends to be inconsistent, but out of the options on the slate today, I just think he is one of the safer options because even if he, gets into some trouble, he's still going to strike guys out in this game. So even if he does give up a few runs, which I don't necessarily even think that he will, he's going to strike guys out and kind of just make up for that. So he's someone I definitely just really like a lot in any format. For tournaments, I really like Dallas Keuchel as a pivot off of Johnny Cueto. I wasn't really sure how I felt about him at first, but I looked into his numbers some more. First off, he only has one start at home so far this year, and over the course of his career, he's been much better at home. His one start came against Detroit. He went 8 innings. He had a really good start, and that's a team that has a lot of right-handed power that generally just crushes lefties. Over the course of his career, his strikeout rate in Houston is 20% compared to 17.5% on the road. xFIP at home is 3.24 compared to 3.55 on the road. The Twins against lefties dating back to last year have been pretty average. 312 WOBA, 96 WRC plus, strike out about 21% of the time. But they're also going to be without Trevor Plouffe today, who is one of their big left-handed, one of their big lefty mashers. So I like Keuchel as a pivot because I think Cueto's going to be a lot more popular because he's coming off a great start, his last start, and in general he's just been pitching really well this year, whereas Keuchel's been struggling for the most part. I read somewhere about Keuchel that people were saying that batters weren't chasing his stuff out of the zone as much this year, which is true, but I think it has more to do, he's throwing more pitches in the strike zone. So I think guys are just making more contact with those pitches, and it's leading to the lower outside of the zone percentage. I don't think it's an issue with the actual quality of his pitches because his swinging strike percentage this year is up over 11%, which is higher than it's been at any point in his career. So people are swinging and missing at his stuff. It's just that he's, I think, throwing more pitches in the strike zone, and that's probably leading to the higher hard contact rate as well. I also looked because his fastball velocity, or his velocity in general, has been down this season. Last season, his average fastball velocity was 89.6 miles an hour, but it wasn't until his 7th start of the season that he had a start where he averaged above 89.6 miles an hour. So I think that could be just the same thing this year, where he just, the weather in a lot of these games is colder. It's just early in the season. I think he will get his velocity back up to where it normally is, and it's not like it's down that much anyway. I don't think it signifies an injury or anything like that. So I just think Dallas Keuchel is going to be Dallas Keuchel at some point, and I think today's the perfect day to target him in tournaments where he's going to be much lower owned than Cueto, especially on FanDuel where he's only $100 cheaper. I think it's going to be similar to the situation on Friday where Corey Kluber had a great matchup and was $500 cheaper than Strasburg in a worse matchup. So Strasburg was 5% owned. Like in tournaments, if you can get the guy that could easily be the number one pitcher on the slate at 5%, that's just like great. And I think it's going to be a similar situation today on FanDuel because if you have the money to pay for Keuchel, you have the money to pay for Cueto. So it's going to be really hard to click Keuchel's name over Cueto today. And I definitely would like to take advantage of that. And I just don't think that the opportunity cost is that high on like running Keuchel out there because, yeah, he doesn't have like the highest upside in the world, but neither does Cueto, and neither does any of the high-priced guys in this matchup. Like, Garrett Cole gets a lot of strikeouts, but he's facing a Cubs team that can hit and doesn't strike out much. Like, there's just not a lot of upside in these big-name pitchers today. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if Keuchel has the best night. And if I can get him at really low ownership, then that's, really, I definitely prefer that to Cueto at, 30 or 40%. I already touched on John Gray as well. I think Gray will be a lot more popular on FanDuel. I still don't know that he'll be as popular as like he should be, just because I think it'll be tough for people to actually click on him. As for just tournaments, Jose Berrios is really interesting to me on both sites. He's 7,700 on DraftKings, 6,200 on FanDuel. I can't see him being very highly owned because he's facing an Astros offense that hits really well, and he didn't pitch particularly well in his major league debut. But this is a guy who had a ton of strikeouts in the minor leagues. He's facing an Astros team that strikes out 27% against right-handed pitching. So he definitely has the upside there. Like, there's a ton of risk. Like, Vegas is projecting the Astros to score 4.7 runs. There's a massive amount of risk, but I will probably just play both sides of it. I'll have, a couple Astros stacks, and I'll have some lineups with Berrios, because if he's low-owned and he's facing a team that strikes out a ton and he's a strikeout pitcher, he can easily come out and just have a really good game. And, he threw 93 pitches his last start, so it's not like, they pulled him after 80 pitches or something. Like, they let him go. He's ran into trouble. So I think it's, a very high-risk, very high-reward spot that I'll probably have some exposure to tonight. And then one guy who I think is safer, but I'm less excited about, is Nate Karns at 8,200 on FanDuel, 7,600 on DraftKings, facing Oakland. It's an interesting spot because Oakland, I think, will run out a lot of left-handed hitters against Karns, but Karns is actually better against left-handed batters. Going back to last year, he strikes out almost 27% of left-handed batters. The A's themselves don't strike out very often, but they're at about 18% against right-handed pitching. But you figure, the happy medium there is going to be Karns gets a handful of strikeouts, decent amount of strikeouts, and as long as he just pitches well, he'll pay off his price tag. So he's someone that I'm definitely interested in as well if, I decide not to go with Cueto or Keuchel as a high-end option on, DraftKings. As far as pitchers I want to target, there's a handful of teams that I think are really, really in good spots today. I'm going to try and figure out throughout the day where most people are going and then just kind of go heaviest on the teams that people aren't as big on. But ones that really stand out to me are the Blue Jays against AJ Griffin. I was hoping they were going to kind of go under the radar today because whoever did the pricing on DraftKings thinks AJ Griffin is a good pitcher and has him at 9.2K. and on top of that, adjusted the Toronto bats down, so they're all priced way lower than they should be. But AJ Griffin has like a 2.5 ERA with like a 4.7 xFIP. Like, he's going to regress, and he's going to regress badly, and it's probably going to happen soon. He gives up a 40% fly ball rate against righties. So, and the Blue Jays haven't been hitting righties that well this year. But their main issue has been that they're striking out a ton, but AJ Griffin just doesn't strike guys out. So you're just going to be getting a lot of like fly balls in the Rogers Center from very powerful Blue Jays hitters, which I am very excited about. But Vegas does have the Blue Jays projected to score 5 runs, so I don't think they're actually going to go under the radar. Another team that I'm interested in is the Brewers against Jared Weaver. I think they'll probably also be kind of highly owned because they have been hitting well lately and their ownership's kind of been up. But people haven't really been targeting Jared Weaver that much this year, which is just weird. I don't know if it's just coincidence or what, but teams against him have tended to be pretty low owned. The Brewers have a 317 WOBA against right-handed pitching this year. Yeah, 317 WOBA, 88 WRC plus, 165 ISO. So, they have some power. Their main issue has been they strike out 25% of the time. But Jared Weaver throws like 82 miles an hour and strikes out 13% of batters. So I'm not worried about the Brewers striking out. I think that they're going to be putting the ball in play. They're going to be hitting it hard. And it's at Miller Park. So a lot of hard hit balls at Miller Park equals a lot of runs scored for the Brewers. And one team that I think is actually going to be pretty sneaky today is the Cardinals at home against Jeremy Hellickson. It's not the best hitting environment, so people will probably overlook it, but they're projected to score 4.3 runs, which is the 5th highest total on the board. For example, they're projected to score slightly more than the Mets, who I think will be popular and who I like, but I think that'll just really help the Cardinals just go under the radar against Hellickson, who, he had a good last start, but he gives up 34% hard contact to right-handed and left-handed hitters, and he's facing a Cardinals team who so far this year against right-handed pitching has the 3rd highest WRC+, a 362 WOBA, and a 218 ISO. So they've just been absolutely pounding right-handed pitching, and they're facing Jeremy Hellickson, who just gives up a lot of hard contact to everyone who steps in the batter's box. So that's a spot that I think I'll have a good amount of exposure to tonight, because everything points to them scoring a lot of runs, but I just don't think they're going to be a team that gets talked about a lot. So those are the guys that, I plan on trying to get some hitters against. So my main pitchers for the day, just to recap, were Johnny Cueto and Jonathan Gray, and then I like throwing out Dallas Keuchel, Jose Barrios, and Nate Carnes as GPP options to differentiate my lineups. So I'll be in the Slurve chat later today around lock. Just stop in, talk about any unexpected lineup changes, weather issues, just lineups in general. And good luck today, guys.